Calgary Flames fans, it's time for Flames Unfiltered. Entertaining and controversial hockey talk with your host, Brad Burud.
I am done with the horrendous coaching decisions. The work ethic, the lack of consistency. This team has me more frustrated than ever before. Good evening. Welcome to Flames Unfiltered, episode number 89, February 18th, 2021. I am the host of the show, Brad Burud, and it's good to have you with for another night of Flames hockey talk. And it is a busy night tonight, and it is a fun night, but it is also, I don't know, it was described to me as maybe a therapy session, because my anger level, it is at an all-time high for Flames, and I have been a follower of this team since '84. So I've seen some stuff. Is it the coaching? Is it the core? Is it both? Is it the general manager? Is it the ownership group? I don't know. More likely, it's a combination of all. But where do we go? Where do we go with this organization? Where do we go with this core? I think we're all at the point where it's like, is this team ever going to reach the potential that all of us believe is possible? Because I think there's a lot of talent on this team. But I question the heart. Which sucks, because there's nothing worse than wondering what kind of effort you're going to get when your team steps onto the ice. I'm depressed. I'm frustrated. And sadly, there's not a quick fix for this. Let's just start the show and let's get into it, man. Big thanks to our sponsors, shopnhl.com, Spark Hydrate, KT Tape, Fanatics, Riders Eyewear, AccuScore. They're all on board to help us out. Today's episode, we're going to recap a disappointing 4-game set with the Vancouver Canucks. And then one of our regulars joins the show, Auddie James. He's been on numerous times. He is a fun conversation about Flames hockey. That guy, him and I enjoy talking about this team, and we talk for a long time today on the episode as we evaluate this team at the quarter mark of the season. And then it's on to some Flames news from the North, and a Facebook poll asking, where would this team be without Markstrom this year? We'll wrap with a preview of the home back-to-back Battle of Alberta that starts Friday night. And then it's on to Toronto for a 2-game road trip. That should be very interesting. Thanks for joining us on Flames Unfiltered. Hope you enjoyed the show. All right, Flames fans. Do we have a lot to talk about on this episode. 4-game series with the Vancouver Canucks. Calgary gets 4 points out of the deal. Vancouver 5. And yeah, I was left wanting more. Let's go back to Thursday the 11th. Calgary in Vancouver. The game ends up being a 3-1 win for the Flames. Gaudreau scores a power play goal right at the end of the first period, or right at the end of the power play in the first period. Outshot again in the first. Big shocker there. Mangiapane scores a nice goal also right at the end of the power play. So the power play doesn't get what it should there, but the power play was clicking and clicking good. Nordstrom steps up and blocks some big shots, and I want to touch base on that because this guy keeps getting ripped, and I'm very impressed with his penalty killing. I think he's been really good. He's added a lot of speed, and he's added some physical play. I like where this guy is at. In the third period, Tyler Myers with a classic Tyler Myers turnover sends Gaudreau in on a breakaway, 3-1. The rest of the third period, Vancouver fell apart defensively, and where we are today with the Flames, that's where Vancouver was last Thursday, as that was their sixth straight loss, and the world was falling in Vancouver. Fast forward 7 days, that's where we're at for Calgary. Funny how this season is, huh? Then on to Saturday night, hockey night in Canada, Calgary at Vancouver, a night where Connor Mackey saw his first game action in the NHL. And it started off disastrous. 10 straight shots from Vancouver. Unanswered. 10 shots in a row. 0-0 at the end of the one. Thank you, Jacob Markstrom. Shots were 20-4 in favor of Vancouver. Unreal. In the second, Gaudreau turns the puck over to Hughes, and Hughes goes in and scores a beauty. Then Bennett bounces back right at the end of the second with a great goal and a hard-working effort. 1-1. Sutter scores an empty netter to seal in the deal. 3-1 Vancouver. And Calgary was within a goal. With minutes to play in a hockey game, they had absolutely no business being in. One of the worst efforts that we've seen in Calgary for a decade. Horrendous. Shots 49-19. And the world was coming to an end Saturday night in Calgary. Monday, we're in Vancouver for the final night in Vancouver. Markstrom in net again, which many people were like, holy cow, but okay, Markstrom's in. Backlund out with an injury. He got injured in the Saturday night game. Dubé gets a penalty right away to start the game and spots Vancouver a 1-0 lead. Then Mackey takes a penalty. Vancouver's up 2-0. Not a good start. Things aren't looking that good. Looking a lot like Saturday night, to be honest with you. Lucic scores on a nice pass from Anderson. It's 2-1. Calgary's back in this. Valimaki, we're seeing him action on the power play unit 1 as he was over 20 minutes this Monday night and was good. I thought he was good. He still has a few shaky moments, but the guy is progressing very, very well. Canucks turn one over. Anderson steals. Lindholm scores. We're tied 2-2. Things are looking good. Then Nate Schmidt has a classic, tries to pass it up the middle from behind the net. Dubé steals it. He chips it in. 3-2 Calgary's in the lead. A third period that's back and forth and was actually a pretty good third period. Looks like Calgary is going to win this one. 30 seconds to go. Brock Besser scores from the slot, and we're tied 3-3. Only took 23 seconds into overtime. Thank goodness Johnny Gaudreau scores, and the Flames sneak out with 2 points in a 4-3 overtime victory over Vancouver. Not a great outing, had to come from behind. And then it was last night, February 17th, Vancouver in Calgary, and Markstrom goes again. And everybody was like, holy cow, like how much is this guy going to play? Which, how do you not play him? Though he's our best player, so I'm not really totally questioning more on that. But at some point, we have to work Riddick in. Holtby's in net for Vancouver, and Holtby was good, really good. But the frustration in Calgary started yesterday morning when the line combinations came out. Simone is back up on the right wing for Gaudreau and Monahan, and Sam Bennett, who's been really good on the Lucic Bennett Dubé line the game before, and was really pretty good and pretty productive on the Monahan Gaudreau line the previous 2 games. All of a sudden, Bennett's fourth line right wing with Nordstrom and Ritchie. What? Where are we going? Or where are we going with this? Like, what are we doing to Sam Bennett? I don't understand it. So he loses the spot to Simone, right? Well, Simone turns one over in the neutral zone right away before Bennett has even hit the ice. That goes to show you how quick it was. And Vancouver's up 1-0. Just like that. Turnover, boop, goal. Markstrom comes out of his net on a wild one and gets ran into by Tanner Pearson, and I thought it wasn't Pearson's fault, but I thought, holy cow. And it scared me to see that, because we cannot have him get hurt. Markstrom comes out again, gets walked around by Horvat, and Markstrom just wasn't on. But I also wondered when he came out if it was more of a message saying, well, what else do I have to do, guys? Markstrom looked frustrated, and rightfully so. The lines were a jumbled mess all night long. All night. Then the 4-1 goal happened when Matthew Tkachuk makes a lazy play, gets checked at the blue line. Count it, 4.5 seconds for him to get up off the ice. By the time he does, puck's in the back of the net. It's 4-1. Markstrom comes out in goal for the third, which everybody thought that Riddick would get the call then. And it actually frustrated me that he didn't, because why are we putting Markstrom out there when this hasn't been on him and he's going to have to take the hit and play the whole game? Let's save this guy. We do eventually when Riddick comes in at the 8-minute mark of the third, which I disagreed with. I thought it should have been to start the third, but it wasn't. Horrible effort. Another horrible start. Players gave the same post-game interviews. Frustration level of the fans was at an all-time high on Twitter. We look like Vancouver fans. And the talk radio after and all day today was buzzing. Jeff Ward's quote after the game was, "Inconsistent is probably the best way to describe the 4 games against the Canucks." But we've been talking about it for a while now. It's time to put this thing to bed and take charge and take control of what we can. We can certainly control the way we start. We can certainly control how we pay attention to details, how hard we compete, how much we care. All these things are certainly within our control. It's time for us to start giving a shit about it. That quote scared me. Not that Jeff Ward is mad. He should be mad. Why? With a team that's, for the most part, core been together for 7+ years, why are we talking and saying the words, and we've heard these same words for year after year after year? Consistency, compete, care, attention to details. Why are we still hearing those words? Joining Flames Unfiltered now, he is a regular on the show. He's back again for a very, very important episode about Flames evaluations at the quarter mark. It's Auddie James. Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, no problem. And as I was saying off the air, I've been looking forward to this episode, I think, more than ever, just given everything that's gone on. And I know we're going to get into it, but we got a lot to talk about.
Well, we do. We have a
lot to talk about.
And, you know, last night as the game was going on, all I could think of was, you know, the tone of our podcast tomorrow night is going to drastically change after this game tonight.
It's like typical Auddie and Brad from when we were first chatting and kind of lighting everybody up. That's all I was thinking about. I'm like, man, we're really about to go back to like original Auddie and Brad when we were just ripping everybody apart. So I don't know.
I even feel, you know, we were tough. We've been, you know, over in the history, we probably, you know, had probably 6 or 7 hits like this on our podcasts. And, you know, I think, God, we're hard on some of these guys, but you know what? Like, as we're still talking about the same problems now that we talked about a year ago. And that's a problem. I mean, it seems like we just keep rehashing everything over and nothing changes in Calgary. And I think that's why the fan base is just up in arms as Twitter exploded last night. We were joking about how we added to the firestorm last night on Twitter, and how today over the talk radio and everything you're talking about today with Flames hockey is doom and gloom.
It's warranted now more than ever. You know, we've been critical on guys, I think, in the past, in times when maybe it was more of a personal, not vendetta, but like personally we were feeling guys were, you know, not performing as well as they should. But now more than ever, I find that this complete disconnect that we're feeling with this team, its management and its coaching staff, it's warranted now. And I think that enough fans have kind of had or reached that breaking point as well. And, you know, like you said, we saw it last night on Twitter. We heard it the other night on Overtime. There's a lot of people that share the same opinion. And before we get too far into it, I will say, shout out to another friend of this show, Nate Thomas. Him and I have started a petition to become the head and assistant coach of the Calgary Flames. Reach us on Twitter. You will see a picture of us behind the bench. And we promise that we will not make the same mistakes that you are seeing out there right now. So I had to put a little shameless plug in for myself and Nate as we start our drive to kind of help this team get back on track.
Nate's another regular on the show, and it's always fun talking Flames hockey with him too. And yeah, I'll put a link on him on the podcast to that, because that's important. As we, let's start there. Let's start with coaching. I got a list of things today. Let's start with coaching. I was critical last year at times with Jeff Ward, and was extremely critical in that game 6 against Dallas. And I know you were as upset as me. When they hired him, I felt, and I think you'd probably agree with me, I felt more like it was like the easy hire. Like, we're going to get this guy cheap. He's already here. Like, no sense in really putting a lot of effort into it. Let's just hopefully things will go smooth with Jeff Ward.
Yeah, you know, I would agree with you there. And one of the things we spoke about before is not necessarily knowing if we were confident that Jeff Ward is the guy. It's always that you always have that inherent risk too when you strip the interim tag off of a coach. You know, the situation last year was it was a difficult one to be in, and I will say Treliving and company, they dealt with that very, very well. And I think for the most part, it worked in their favor, especially after the Peters saga had ended. The team went on a bit of a tear under Jeff Ward. And, you know, say what you want about, you know, maybe he had something to do with it. Maybe it was just coincidence or luck, whatever you want to call it. It looked good.
Yes.
But come the end of the season, I think we both had the same opinion on going out there and finding the guy, because something that this team has lacked since, God, when? Daryl Sutter is head coaching, or consistent, you know, like a bona fide, like head coach.
The only like premier big name head coach that I remember the Flames ever hiring and paying money, I guess, was Mike Keenan.
Which would have been what, early 2000s, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the one that I remember them. I remember when that happened, I thought, all right, they went for the big fish. Now, that didn't pan out. And maybe that's the reason we haven't seen anything since. I think Daryl Sutter was, I mean, as big as it could get, but I wonder if we would say that if he wouldn't have taken him to the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't know. Now, he obviously went on and had a great success in LA too, but really since then, we've been floundering with coaches. And I hate to say that I think Jeff Ward is just a flat out bad hire. I don't necessarily think that. But one of the problems, I got a couple problems with what I'm seeing with Jeff Ward. And I guess my first and foremost, I don't pin all of this that's happened to the team and all this on Jeff Ward. I think that's just a piece of the problem. But when I look at some of the decisions, and in my previous podcast, I ripped him pretty hard, and I've made a lot of notes. I continue to see nightly things. And my biggest complaint is I have no idea if I asked you now what's one word that describes this team, I know one of your first 3 words you'd give me is inconsistent.
Totally. No, 100%.
How is this team ever supposed to develop consistency if we don't keep lines the same for more than 8 minutes?
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest head scratchers for me is you get glimpses of guys playing on lines, and it seems like, okay, this is it. He's finally kind of figured out who should be playing with who, what combinations are working. Like, this is something we can roll forward with, until we see that maybe, it needs a change of scenery, or like this year is panning out to be, we're playing against 6 other teams throughout the entire 56-year season. Teams are going to catch on. Line juggling is going to happen. It can be a good coaching strategy, but at the same time, it can be something that make or break your team, which we're seeing now is the breaking point. And I will say one thing: I do totally wholeheartedly agree with you on the fact that it's not all on Jeff Ward right now, and that doesn't mean that Jeff Ward is a bad coach, because I'm of the opinion that you can still be a good coach, but you may never really be a head coach, or you never really should be a head coach. That doesn't make you a bad coach if you can't, kind of tackle that head coaching role. And I don't think that Jeff Ward is a bad coach. I just question a lot of the decision-making process. I don't know if that's simply because he's not cut out for this job. Like, he's a good coach, but he's not qualified for this role. I don't know if it's Treliving taking the easy way out and not going for one of the bigger fish, like we said, because look at this offseason. The coaches that were out there and available were Gallant. We had Boudreau. We had Laviolette until he went to Washington. There were coaches out there that were looking for work, and there still are. But at the same time, I'm going to segue into the fact that this could possibly be Treliving's fault in saying that, you can't really, can you fire this guy right now without facing repercussions? Because I think it's fair to say that, this is Treliving's last coaching hire.
Probably, but it might be his deathbed too.
Exactly.
But here's the deal, though. I've coached hockey now, obviously not at the level Jeff Ward has coached hockey. But if you don't ever, a lot of coaching is putting people in positions to succeed. Do you think Dominic Simone was put in a position to succeed last night?
I don't think so.
Is he? And I've also been told by coaches that your job is to make sure every night you put out the best lineup you can.
I'm not seeing that.
I'm not seeing that ever. And I'm not. It's easy to be a fan and say, well, you should have, Mangiapane with Lindholm and Tkachuk, and you should have so-and-so with so-and-so and so-and-so. But when you're plugging in Dominic Simone in the top 6, I got a problem. When you have Milan Lucic out on offensive zone faceoffs with under 3 minutes to go, I got a problem. When you got, okay, yes, Sam Bennett wants to trade out, which I wholeheartedly don't blame him. But what was it? What was the Gong Show last night? Okay, so yesterday, I'm actually pretty excited, and I'm feeling actually pretty confident after the overtime win. And then I look at the lines, and I'm like, is Jeff Ward trying to stir shit up? Because Bennett has played the best games he's played in the last week when he's with Gaudreau and Monahan, or when he's centering Lucic and Dubé. And now he's not doing either one of them. What are we doing? Are we trying to make it so that he pulls a Dubois and bails on us? I don't understand. And I'm not saying he should get favoritism and should be up on the top lines. But I'm saying, you think Simone's better than Bennett right now?
Dominic Simone should not be in anybody's top 6 unless he's playing with Sidney Crosby, which is what he did in Pittsburgh and what made him look so appealing to a guy like Treliving to go out and get, and maybe a guy like Jeff Ward to put him into the top 6. When you play with Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon, Ty Rattie said it best in the preseason 2 years ago when he lit it up, and he was leading the league in preseason points. And I'll tell you, he's from my hometown. I played baseball with Ty. I know his dad, Rob. He said, you could put my dad, Rob, out there, and he would get points with McDavid. That's going to happen. Those players make the Dominic Simones look good. Why do you think Chris Kunitz made Team Canada in 2014?
Crosby.
Sidney Crosby, chemistry, right?
I'm just saying, like, I continue to look at these lineups, and then if this team faces adversity at any point of a period, it's quick blender
and fold like a cheap table. That's all it is. Like, this team does not deal with adversity well, and there's no spark. That's one of the biggest things I was telling you last night. There was zero spark. I think 3 players played a good game last night, and their names were Andrew Mangiapane, Milan Lucic to an extent, and Jacob Markstrom when he wasn't allowing, a 4-on-1 is not an easy situation to defend, and that's not his fault. But when he's not coming out to play the puck and, pulling vintage Mike Smith stuff. So, I
want to talk about that in a minute, but I look at this, when a coach hits the panic button like that, does that not filter down to the players and they think, well, holy shit, our coach is already pushing the panic button?
Definitely. And it goes back to the old cliche of it starting from the top. If you're showing panic in situations like that and you're throwing your lines in the blender and spitting out whatever that provides to you, it's like, do you, as a player, do you feel like your coach has any faith in you when a situation like that arises? You know what I mean? Like, when the coach shows panic in that, what kind of message does that send to your players?
And we always hear, it's such a good room and we like the coach and there's an open door policy. I've always believed that the best coaches earn respect, and that's why you like your coach. Coaches aren't there to be your buddies.
Well, look at John Tortorella. He's not there to make friends. And I would say he's a very effective coach.
Yeah, but you don't have to be an ass, but you have to demand respect and accountability. And right now, I think Jeff Ward's playing good guy to the point where the guys are taking advantage of it.
100%.
Advantage of it.
100%. It goes to any situation at work. You have your relationship with your boss, friendly and whatnot. But at the end of the day, he's always still going to be your boss, and he's always going to make those decisions. The same thing can be applied to this team and hockey in general, right? It's he's still your boss at the end of the day. I feel like he lacks the ability to make the tough decisions when it comes to, I don't want to say discipline, but after an ass kicking like that last night, showing up to practice and they're bumping music, like this is some kind of.
I think that's the exact opposite way to handle that today.
100%. That's a bag skate until you're puking.
At what point are these guys going to want to win? You can't. Like, I watch some of these players and I'm like, he does not look like he wants to win.
No, 150% you're right. And I think the players only meeting was a crock of BS. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you hear what Ward said about the coaches or the players only meeting?
I don't remember what he said.
He said it's like a tape job on a stick. It's good for about 15 minutes.
He did not. Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to take, and I don't know what's. I honestly don't. I'm almost at a loss, and this is kind of the point where I'm starting to get. I'm trying to stay as calm as I possibly can, but I might be getting a little fiery right now. But I'm at a loss with this team, and this. Not many people know this. I'm a Penguins fan first. I only really started following Calgary after I moved here. This is the most frustrated I've been in the 7 years that I've been living in this province and following this team closely. I've grown a very close connection to this team in the sense that it's allowed me to kind of pursue this digital content space and whatever. I'll save you the details on that, but this team has allowed me a lot of things. So I feel a really good connection with this team. Mm-hmm. And I am very, very upset and frustrated and legitimately speechless. It's not a good time. And, we talked about overtime quickly at the beginning of the pod here, but it's it's getting on a lot of people's skin, and a lot of people are having the same kind of message. The optimism isn't really there because they haven't given us a reason to be optimistic. Nothing is going well. The only constant is Jacob Markstrom, and without him, this team probably would have only had 2 or 3 wins by now, if they're lucky.
I mean, our goaltending has literally been really good. I mean, it's been the only thing good. And I look at Markstrom and I look at he took the hit last night, and it made me want to puke.
100%.
This guy is standing up, and the rest of the team is sitting to the side, not saying anything, saying the same old garbage we hear every night from them. We have to be better. We have to start on time. I could do the press conferences for the players. They get up there, they show no emotion. They're just like, yeah, we need to be better. Nobody, I mean, holy cow, when's somebody going to come into the press conference and freaking slam a microphone down and go, we're not good. We need to change right now. Some of these players need to be held accountable, and I can start naming names if you want it.
It needs to happen, and someone needs to take the bull by the reins here and just say what they're feeling and what's on their mind. You look. Let me just cool down a second. We've seen it in the past where goaltenders, and if you were listening to Overtime last night, Steinberg put it perfectly. Mike Smith specifically, Brian Elliott, who just put the team on blast when it's clearly their fault. You finally get a goaltender who puts his heart on his sleeve and plays every game a full 60 minutes, keeps everybody. He's stolen games. He keeps this team in it for 60 minutes a goddamn night. You lose this game and he's got to be the one to wear it? Are you kidding me?
When I saw him,
I would be embarrassed to be on this team right now. It's pathetic. You're going to let a guy like Jacob Markstrom, who has been your MVP, and he's only been on your team for 15 games, 16 games. He's got to be the one to wear that.
The thing is, like, I watched him last night, and I know he wasn't as on last night, but we can't expect him to be on every night. But at no point did I feel like that game was his fault. And he came out of the net twice last night, and that's, aggressively make wild, crazy plays. And you know what part of me was thinking on that?
Defensive breakdown, and he has to do it?
Well, is it to the point where he's just like, kind of, screw off, guys? Like, I mean, do you know what I mean? Like,
the I'll do it myself mentality. If nobody's going to help me, I'll do it myself. And
I have to take charge of everything.
I feel so bad for this guy because this is the first legitimate, number one goaltender this team has had since Mika Kiprusoff. Go over the years since Kiprusoff left Calgary and tell me, the list of goaltenders that this team has cycled through. You finally get your number one. Great. The city was ecstatic. We were super happy. I remember texting you about how happy I was that Jacob Markstrom decided to make Calgary his home for the next 6 years. And then this is what he walks into.
What do you think he's sitting on his couch last night thinking? I got 6 more years of this.
6 more years of not knowing what the hell is going to be going on. Because nobody's being held accountable right now. Jeff Ward is running his own show, showing up to practice with his MP3 player plugged in on his 2007 Spotify playlist. Then you got Brad Treliving, who's probably doesn't have the balls to do anything about Jeff Ward because that would affect his pride and probably would be the final nail in his coffin. He's not going to get another coaching hire. He is playing,
house money right now. And I love Brad Treliving. I've always supported him and I've always backed him until just now because
I'm 100% with you.
I've defended him 100 times and I still think he's good, but now is when we need to see how good he is. I can't imagine he hasn't went down and sat in the office with Ward and said, this line blender, how is that working?
You would think, not working. We'll never know what goes on in that office. But I want to believe that Brad Treliving is having these tough conversations with this coaching staff. But at the same time, like nothing is changing. So what proof do I have that these conversations are being had and somebody is being held accountable? Because look, I will bitch and complain all I want about what I saw last night. Regardless, at the end of the day, the team didn't come out to win. Regardless of the situation they were put in, they played like crap. They did not deserve to win that hockey game. But at the same time, as we work our way up, we come to Jeff Ward. He's not being held accountable. The players aren't holding themselves accountable except for Jacob Markstrom, but my God. And then for Living, there's no accountability on anybody. Somebody needs to take accountability for this and say, look, this is an issue because we are a quarter of the way through this season. We have no identity. The only thing that's going for us is our netminder who we signed in free agency. And I'm beyond frustrated, and there needs to be some kind of accountability. I'm sick of hearing inconsistent. Let's hear accountability. Who's going to come out tomorrow and say, look, things have been bad. We know this, and we've taken acceptance on it, and this is something that internally we're working on. Like, I don't know. It's something like that. Anything that would lead me to believe that somebody's having this conversation.
You know what, though? And correct me if I'm wrong. We've talked about coaching and goaltending. Now we're going to get to the forwards here in a second. But if the players, let's say, came out and said that tomorrow, would you believe them? Because I wouldn't.
I'm not sure. It would depend on who it comes from. If it's coming from 1323 or
I wouldn't believe them.
Wouldn't believe them. I would believe it coming from 1788.
You know what I think needs to happen?
11.
And it was said this morning on Fan 960. I believe Brett Warner said it. The biggest fish has to go.
Yeah. It's
let's
something
talk about the forwards. And while we're going to talk about the forwards, I can't believe it. And everybody that's talked about it today. Matthew Tkachuk. Let's start right there.
It's funny. I went grocery shopping today, and I'm pretty sure I saw him on the side of a milk carton. I don't know what is going on. I was convinced. I was telling myself that, he got hurt last playoffs. I'm thinking maybe he's not right. Maybe something's off. But then I'm like, he started this year the same way he finished last year.
Ever since it was an incident.
It's living rent-free in his head. And I was just as pissed as the next guy to see it.
I'm almost positive something happened in the locker.
Well, that was immediately when they had that players-only meeting.
Okay, but listen to this. Did you listen to Spittin' Chicklets with Johnny Gaudreau?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
You need to. Because
what does he say?
He talked about that situation. He's like, well, I didn't know what happened, and we just wanted to get out of there. We thought the game was over, and we didn't know why Matthew was freaking out. And it's basically been talked about that players in that locker room during that players only meeting told Matthew he's got to cool down. They're tired of these scrums after every whistle.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know if I 100% believe that or not, but you know what? It makes sense, doesn't it?
It does, because ever since that Muzzin incident, that was immediately triggered the players only meeting. Mm-hmm. And Matthew Tkachuk has been a non-factor ever since. And it's driving me nuts because.
And I've seen no interaction with his teammates.
Not one. No, not one. And it's funny because everybody's been talking about since this kid got drafted that he's going to be the next captain. And to see him now, something is wrong. And I don't think it's I don't know what it is. I wish I could be a fly on the wall in that locker room because something is not right. I don't know if it's mentally. I don't know if he got chewed out by multiple players. I don't know if maybe he said something in that players only meeting that triggered everybody to kind of have a similar reaction. But
probably, hey, I'm busting my ass and none of you guys are.
But look at that. That should tell you everything you need to know about someone taking accountability and calling other people out for their BS. And it doesn't work. If that was the case, Nothing's changed except for the fact that he's invisible. And I don't even think it's his fault.
I just don't understand it. I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I mean, I've always liked Matthew Tkachuk. I've always thought maybe he was a tad bit overrated by the Calgary fans. But I've always loved his style. But you know what? I see what happens in this Muzzin thing. Nobody comes to this thing. He freaks out. If that happened in the locker room, I see no team interaction with him. Obviously, we're not there. We do not know what's going on. But on the bench, and we don't see him laughing, smiling, doing anything. The only thing I saw was last night when Valimaki got ran from behind. It looked like he was telling Valimaki, we're going to get that guy. That's it. And then other than that, like, there's been none of that cohesiveness or anything. And then, you know, how uncharacteristic is this on the fourth goal last night? Tkachuk gets knocked down. The puck gets turned over. It takes him they counted it out. They were talking about it on 960 this morning. 4.5 seconds for him to get up, and the puck's in the net. That's not Tkachuk.
It's not. No, and we've never seen this glimpse of, like, I'd hate to say it, but it almost seems like the play that forced Dubois out of Columbus.
Yep.
That's sloppy. I don't want to be here. Something's wrong. And this is a call out to Matthew Tkachuk. If you're listening, please know that people understand, like us, that we know that something's wrong. And we don't want you to feel alone and isolated, because I feel like it could be a sense of maybe I'm alone in this battle and nobody else. Like, I've got my teammates back, but nobody's got mine. You know what I mean? Like, if that was Johnny Gaudreau who had that puck flipped into him by Jake Muzzin, I would bet you there would be probably 6 or 7 Flames trampling on top of him at the end of that game.
I don't know, man.
I don't know what it is. Like, I'm trying to make sense of it, Brad. Because
I like to think so.
I'm trying to make sense of it because it doesn't make sense to me. And I know that I'm not the only one. I know that you're probably thinking the same thing.
What would happen? Let me throw this one at you. I just thought of this as you were talking about Matthew. What would happen right now? Honestly, I think this might fix the whole damn problem. What would happen if Matthew Tkachuk said, either these guys are on board with me or trade me right now? It's crazy. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying that. But
no, but you're not, like, it's really not that crazy though. Like,
why do we as the Calgary Flames, why do we think that Matthew Tkachuk owes us something and he's going to stay in Calgary forever?
I truly don't think he will.
People around here, though, in this fan base, thinks that he's here forever.
Oh, like, he's not.
Think about this, you guys. That guy can be gone in a hurry here.
He fits the mold of a lot of play. Like I'll tell you right now, how good of a Boston Bruin would Matthew Tkachuk be? Right? How good of a Boston Bruin would he be? How good of a, like, there are 31, soon to be 31 other teams in the NHL who would pay a premium for a Matthew Tkachuk and give him what he's not getting here. And I don't know if that's if a coaching change is something that needs to, happen in terms of getting him back to the game that we're used to seeing him play. I don't know what it is, Brad. I'm lost in a lot of thoughts about this team right now.
Let's rewind a bit. Did you think, and we talked about this numerous times, do you think that maybe this goes back to the fact that Treliving did nothing to change the core? Now, he added some key pieces, and very good key pieces. And as much as people are ripping on Levo and Simone and Nordstrom, I still think Nordstrom's been really, really good. I think Levo, if given the chance, will probably be fine. People forget he's coming off a bad injury. Simone has been a disappointment. Okay. If you're 2 for 3 on that, or even 1 for 3, we have to be happy. We're paying them league minimum. What are people thinking in this fan base? These guys are going to step in and be 30 goal scorers at a league minimum? Like, no.
They can't expect that we went out and got, like a Taylor Hall. This is a completely different, like, these were depth signings. I think more or less strategic from a taxi squad perspective, signing guys to league minimum deals who, can easily be moved to and from the taxi squad or,
Yep.
It's a different season. And that's kind of, I think what played a lot into these signings. But aside from Markstrom and Tanev, what changed?
Well, that's the thing.
We replaced bottom six players with other bottom six players. We lost Jankowski. We bring in Simone. That's
a fair trade. I mean, but think about this. Me and you talked about it last year. Like, the culture is messed up, and the only way you change the culture is to get rid of the core. Who do you consider the core? But who do you right now consider the core? Gio, Monahan, Gaudreau, Tkachuk,
Lindholm,
Backlund.
Yeah, that's that would be my assessment.
And I hate to say this, Monahan and Gaudreau have to go. And I would Gaudreau because I think we need to get an asset because he's not signing here.
I don't think he's staying, and that's
Listen,
I don't think
everything he talks about is Philadelphia this, Philadelphia that, New Jersey this, New Jersey that.
I know he's a big. I have a good buddy of mine who is good buddies of his that I like to associate myself with. So, not that I have any inside information on that, but the guy loves Philly. He loves the Jersey area. He loves where he's from. He loves being close to his family. His old man had a health scare there not long ago. So, I think he's a very family-driven person. And a lot of these players, man, look at what happened with John Tavares. Move back home, move back home, move back home. That's got to be the end goal, right? But to bring it back to the core, if this season doesn't go as planned, or it's already not going as planned, if it gets any worse, which I can't wrap my head around the fact that I don't think it can get much worse. Can this get worse?
Yeah. Markstrom can start struggling.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Markstrom could get hurt.
Yeah, and then we got to rely on Riddick.
Auddie, these are the same things that what you just said, though. Nick, you were just about to say it. At the end of the season, something's got to happen to the core. We said that last year.
But that's what I wanted to loop back to is how long do we have to wait for these guys? We said this last year about Gaudreau, and then this year he started out hot.
A lot better this year. A lot better. And
I would agree with that. But there's still so many little things that could be better. And is this the core that you want to build around? What can you do? Who can you add? You want to go out and get another a bona fide 1C to play with Gaudreau? Do you want to trade Gaudreau for a sniping winger who can I have no idea, man. I don't know what is going on. I don't know what's going to happen. I run these hypotheticals through my head, and it's going to drive me nuts. I go to my boss, who's a Leaf fan, at least 3 times a day, and I say, "Who says no? Who says no? Who says no?" Because and I'll give him a shameless plug and a shout out. He's a very logical Leaf fan. He's not like the majority of them who are out in their own world. Very logical, very smart hockey fan. But I find myself walking into his office at least 4 times, 3 times a day saying, "All right, let me run this one by you. Let me run this one by you." And I ran one by him today, and we ran out through some hypotheticals. But it would be, I think the answer's got to be they got to get a center that they can build around. Afford
one.
That's just it. What do you give up? What do you give up, and what money do you you got to? I don't know.
And it won't be long, then we're gonna have to sign Gaudreau, and we're gonna have to re-sign Tkachuk.
Yeah, I know, and it's
not gonna work.
It's a really bad situation to be in, and I think fans are underestimating how bad things can get very fast.
Oh,
because like in the flip of a switch, man, we can lose Gaudreau for nothing. Monahan's value will go; it'll plummet to the point where he's not even going to live up to the contract that he's signed to, let alone get anything of value in return in trade. Bennett wants out, and then what are we left with?
no,
Nobody's going to want to come here.
No, I do have to say it. I mean, since we're evaluating, Johnny Hockey's been a lot better this year, and I'm his biggest critic. But I will say he's been a lot better this year. I still feel like we get a turnover every other game, not every game, but every other game. But I feel like his work ethic has been a lot better. So I'm gonna give him praise. I think he's been good. I think Lindholm's been good. Mangiapane's been good. Kachuk has not.
What did I tell you about Mangiapane? Remember when you were? Sure. I remember this. I remember a couple of years ago, and I'm like, we got to watch for this Mangiapane guy. I was singing the praises.
So I'm still a little bit on the fence about Dubé. Am I wrong on this guy? Is this guy a bona fide?
I don't think you are.
Player? Like
I don't think he's a bona fide top six
hockey player. But like, is he a top six guy? Or are we just pretending and talking ourselves into having him be a top? That's what we do all the time. Right from the beginning, we were like, Monahan, well, he should be a number one center because we drafted him high. Boy, he's not playing like one. But he's going to have to be our number one center. And this fan base and this management group kept talking ourselves into that Sean Monahan is a bona fide number one center. Sean Monahan's not a bona fide one center in 24 teams right now.
Yeah, I'll just to touch on the bona fide number one center thing. There are very few bona fide number one centers, but there are 31 number one centers in the NHL right now. Are they all bona fide number ones that would be number ones on any other team? No. And that's kind of the situation I feel like we're in with Sean Monahan. He's one of the 31 1Cs in this league right now that I don't think would be a 1C on any other team.
Do you think, this Lindholm experiment at center, which I'm not against, but do you think he's a bona fide number one center?
I want to say yes, compared to what we have.
I do too.
Like I want to say compared to the rest of this roster, yes. But that doesn't fill the need. Like I still think that there needs to be something that's done on this team where they go out and they acquire one. But I don't know how you do that with the money situation right now and the flat cap and what assets you'd have to move out. Like you can't just bank on free agency.
No,
working out the way it did this year for you.
We probably won't have a free agent signing like Tanev and Markstrom for 10 years.
Well, look at how long it took to kind of get where we are now.
Can you name the last free agent signing that worked out in Calgary? I can't.
No, because even then, like the majority of the good moves come from Trey at deadline or not deadline at the draft.
Yeah,
that's when he likes to do his work, and he, that's when we saw. I'm drawing a blank. Hamonic. That's when we saw the Hamonic trade come through. That's when Trey does most of his work, and they're not usually the team that goes out and gets the number one free agent. But to a certain point, like if you can't move Johnny and or Sean this season, and these guys end up walking, you got to go out there and you got to make a pitch for someone in free agency. Like I'm almost like hurting my own head just thinking about what this team has to do. But there's a lot of, and I'm not crapping on the talent on this team. I think that this is a talented team.
I do too.
And that's the most frustrating part about the whole damn thing is that we know this team is good. We know that there's talent on this team, but nothing is working. The coaching isn't working. The players don't look like they give a crap out there, and there's no accountability. That's the biggest thing I'm going to keep rooting back to is the accountability.
And that's the most frustrating thing let's switch gears and talk defense a little bit. I want, and I'm talking about accountability too. I watched Tanev go down on one knee last night and take a shot in the chest. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this guy's played with us for 16 games. He's blocking a shot to the chest in a 4-1 game where it looks like half of the people riding the bus are riding and not playing.
Yeah.
What the hell is Tanev thinking? What's going through his head? Because I think he's been amazing this year. I think he's elevated Hannafin's game tremendous.
I can't say enough good things about that pairing. Probably the best D partner Hannafin's ever had in his career. And it's showing. We're seeing the benefits of getting a Chris Tanev and a Jacob Markstrom. Like, I just keep going back to these two free agents and like how bad I feel that these are the only two players on this team that look like they give a crap out there. Tanev's blocking shots. He's chasing down pucks. He's checking hard. He's playing like I want this entire team to play from lines 1 through 4 and pairings 1 through 3. This is what I want to see, but it's not something that we're getting. And I wonder at what point, like, I know they're new faces in the locker room, and I wonder at what point these two guys band together and say, guys, what the hell is going on? Like, does it have to really come from the two freshest faces in the room that something is wrong? You guys have been doing this for years. Year after year, it's the same goddamn thing and nothing changes. Why is it taking two new faces to come in and say that something's wrong? Like, I almost blame leadership too. Like, what's Giordano doing?
I know.
Why do you wear that C if you're not going to do anything about it?
I'll be the first to admit I've always defended Treliving and I've always defended Giordano. And this last week I've started to crumble on the Treliving thing, and I'm starting to crumble on the Giordano thing all this season. And I think he looks old, and I think he looks slow, and we need to monitor his minutes. And it's scary. It's scary.
The biggest thing that resonated with me the last time you and I spoke was you saying limit Giordano's situational minutes. And that's something that's, I couldn't agree more with. And it's something that I feel like we're not seeing as much of, because it just seems like, I don't know, it's hurting my head to think about this stuff, man. Like, there's just so many little things that aren't working. And I know as two fans who are so passionate about this team, and we just want to see some success and some consistency and some accountability, not seeing it and seeing the same results year after year. I'll go out there and I'll say it, man. We're no better than Leaf fans. We're not. They get the same damn results, and they get the same results year after year, and it's always the same thing. It's never the team's fault, holier than thou. But now, like, it seems like everybody's kind of waking up to this reality that things have to change, and there's a lot of things that are wrong. And I don't know. I'm rambling, but I'm frustrated, man, and I know you are too.
Let's wrap defense up here real quick. Two more questions.
Sorry. I've been going off so much. I'm surprised you haven't cut me off yet.
Valimaki and Anderson, your thoughts there?
Rasmus Anderson, I think, has taken another step this year.
I agree.
I think he's looking really good, and I think that's the guy you want Valimaki to learn from. Valimaki has looked like someone who doesn't have a lot of NHL experience, which he doesn't.
But I like that he's willing to extend himself. Is that the word I'm looking for? I wouldn't say he takes a lot of risks, but I like the fact that he's not scared to play his game.
Yeah, and you only learn, right? Like, this is the point in his career where he's going to learn the most. And this is what's going to shape him into the NHLer that he becomes. And I'm not frustrated with Valimaki. He does make some questionable plays, and the odd turnover here and there, or the odd head scratcher, but it's not on him. Like I'm not going to blame the guy who's played 23 regular season games and had an ACL tear, right? Like it's not this guy. This is not the problem.
No,
the problem is not Juuso Välimäki. Rasmus Andersson is probably one of the short list of players that I would say is actually trying his hardest out there. And again, I think, like I said, he's taken some good steps. I know last year we were critiquing his shot. God, does he have a cannon, but he can't hit the net. Seems like those shots are finding the net this year. But I'm not upset at all with Juuso Välimäki or Rasmus Andersson. I'll tell you that much for free right now.
Sam Bennett wants a trade. Do you trade him now, or what do you do with Sam Bennett?
Well, last week I would have told you to keep him with Gaudreau and Monahan, but we know that that's not going to happen. So, if I'm Bennett, I'm calling Darren Ferris again, and I'm saying, man, get me the hell out of here because things are not looking good.
Last night,
they're only going to get worse.
I would have said, listen, you tell Treliving we have 2 weeks, and I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, I would 100% agree with that sentiment. I think that he showed signs of life in kind of bringing that Gaudreau and Monahan line some spark, but it was very short lived, and we don't have answers as to why that is. Kevin Bieksa was on 960 yesterday to say, stuff like first line minutes and second line minutes, top 6 minutes are earned, not given,
and he earned them.
And exactly, and he looked good on that top line, but I don't know. Again, it loops back to, like, no matter what, you find a problem in this team and you can loop it back to the source. Like the coaching is just, it's a head scratcher, and I just don't understand what goes on in this decision-making process this year.
A couple quick questions here, and then I will let you get on with your evening. Best player so far this year? That's the dumbest question ever. Best player besides Jacob Markstrom?
Honestly, I probably got to go with Tanev.
Yeah.
I think that's the obvious answer. The most consistent, and I think he's brought the most in terms of making everybody around him better. Noah Hannafin really benefited having, or is benefiting by having Chris Tanev on his opposite there on the blue line. But I think, honestly, man, by far the two best players have been the two former Canucks in Markstrom and Tanev.
Who's our worst player? Or worst is a bad thing. Most disappointing.
That's a good one. I think right now it's probably not by his own fault. Like as it stands right now, probably Matthew Tkachuk.
I know I was going to say that too, but
I want to retract that and say since the start of the year, Sean Monahan.
Me too. That's what I was going to say. I don't know why, and this is like I have nothing at all to base this upon. Why does my gut feeling? I'm not going to say he's the root of the problem. Why does the whole Gaudreau Monahan line ego thing make me believe that Monahan, and maybe it's unfair that I'm saying that because he's such a quiet guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I shouldn't say that because I have no knowledge. I just feel like that guy's got to get going.
Yeah, and I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know if it's a role thing, if it's, maybe like frig, he's shown no real, like you talk about earning your time. What has he done to earn top 6 minutes?
Bennett has done more than him in my mind.
Right? Why not bench him for a game and teach him a lesson, send a message? Like, that's why I admire coaches sometimes, like as much as I crap on him, like Tortorella. Who isn't afraid? Like, I would love nothing more than Torts to come in and just run his system.
Could you imagine?
I couldn't, because I feel like we're talking about a completely different team.
We have 3 or 4 guys who would ask for trades.
100%. And,
I think they would be.
God. 100% they would. 100%. Their egos would take drive them out of Calgary. But it needs to, there needs to be a message that, we're not here to mess around. You will be put in a role based on how you earn it. Nothing in this league is given. You earn everything in this league. And it almost seems like there's a sense of entitlement with some of these players that just think that, okay, well, I'm in the top 6. I'm probably not going to be moving out of the top 6 anytime soon. And I feel like, I don't know if that's the mindset that these players have, but you can't help but wonder, what is it? And what are the repercussions? Does Johnny Gaudreau get benched? Does Sean Monahan get benched? Do they face any kind of repercussion, or is it just a, slap on the wrist, or a, hey, let's try to get better next game? And I feel like Jeff Ward just lacks a backbone too. It's like you said, players are walking all over him.
They are. They're taking advantage of him, and I'm trying to rip on Gaudreau on this because he has been pretty good this year. So, but Monahan. Oof, it's tough. I heard a bad thing today. Well, I'm going to let you go here, but heard a comment today that got me thinking. I, for a lot of years, have made fun of the Minnesota Wild because they're that mediocre middle. They're never really crappy, and they're never really good, and they make it to the playoffs and then they get ousted right away. And I heard today, and the comment made me want to run to the bathroom. What differentiates Calgary from Minnesota's description?
A border.
That's it.
That's it.
We are the Minnesota Wild, and that pisses me off more than anything else today. Is we're the Minnesota Wild.
They're just a team, Pierre Dorian said it about the Ottawa Senators, and the same can be said for Calgary. We're just a team. We're just a team right now, and I don't know, man. I pray that by the next time we have one of these conversations, we can talk about something good or something that's changed or something that someone has done to either take acceptance or change this team for the better, whether it's a trade or something needs to be. They need to shake it up. Something needs to change. You can't just keep running like this. But I hope to God the next time we talk, it's for something better.
I mean, you care a lot about this team. I mean, and so does the fan base. And we're frustrated right now. And none of us are jumping ship on this team. And we're going to love this team no matter what. But I think the fan base is hit a crossroads where it's, which direction are we going here? Are we going to cut ties with this core, or are we going to, or is this core going to start to care? And I think that's what we want. I think if this fan base saw us going out there and busting our ass every single shift, I would be able to shut the TV off at night and go, lost to a good team tonight because we gave her 100%.
Yeah, the better team won, but it just seems like
we don't get to do that. We get to look and go, man, that was ugly, and it's crazy. But I hope next time it's on a more positive note. Is this team a playoff team?
No, without a reason. This team would lose. This team would lose to Ottawa in 4.
The only reason that I think this team could get into the playoffs is I worry about Edmonton's goaltending, and that's the only way we could get in the playoffs. But we'll see.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, there's still 3/4 of a year to go. Things can turn itself around. We're lucky we can still say it's early, but
yeah,
we're gonna have to pray.
But it's time to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for joining me, Auddie. Check Auddie out on YouTube at Auddie James. All kinds of great content and a whole bunch of new stuff coming up in the works for him too. So check him out on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. And he joins the show frequently, and I really appreciate him coming on. And I always enjoy talking Flames hockey with you, Auddie.
No, for sure. Thank you, Brad.
Inside Edge Hockey News. Dropping the gloves and stirring the pot.
Hey, Flames fans, time for an abbreviated version of Flames news, since outside of gameplay, really hasn't been much Flames news. Thank goodness, hasn't been a lot of injuries. Let's talk about one. Backlund missed one game with a lower body injury. He sustained Thursday night in Vancouver. He did miss Saturday's contest, was back Monday night. Let's talk about injuries. Usually in this section of the show, we talk about that or call-ups or whatever. With the taxi squad, there's so many back and forths to save cap. We don't want to waste your time with that. But injuries. Let's look at this team and look at where we are in the standings. And to be honest with you, we really haven't had any injuries. Haven't had any COVID situations, thank goodness. But no injuries. And that scares me a little bit in the fact that through 16 games we're injury-free. What happens to the success and what happens to scoring and every aspect of the game if injuries creep up on this team? We've been more than fortunate so far. It worries me. Injuries happen on every team. And so far we've stayed free and clear for the most part, minus Backlund, and Dubé missed a couple games, I guess. It is another thing to worry about. Let's take a look in the division, and let's talk standings first. And where do we sit? As most teams have played between 16, all teams in the division have played between 16 and 20 games. Winnipeg and Calgary, 16, the low. Montreal, the low, 15. And Vancouver, the high, 20. Let's take a look at the standings. In the lead, Toronto with 26 points, a point percentage of .765. They're in first. Montreal's in second with a 20 points and a .667 point percentage. Edmonton in third with 20 points, also at a .556 point percentage. Vancouver in fourth with 19 points, just one behind Edmonton, and a .594 point percentage, which is higher than Edmonton. Calgary sits at 17 points at a .531 point percentage. Vancouver also 17 points, but with 4 games played, their point percentage is .425. Ottawa sits in the cellar with just 9 points at a .25 point percentage. And how does the North fare? Well, I, along with talked on numerous podcasts to start the year about this North Division, and said, we may not have the most elite teams, but we're going to be the top to bottom depth-wise of any division. And boy, am I eating my words on that, because Vancouver's struggled a lot this year. Ottawa has struggled markedly, and Calgary has struggled. And many teams point that in question if Vancouver and Edmonton are really that good. So I'm kind of eating crow a little bit, because I said that this team was pretty good top to bottom, with the exception of Ottawa. We just lack that elite team. Well, Toronto and Montreal are looking fairly elite, but the rest of the group just isn't performing to what their expectations were. Let's take a quick look at where Money Puck has everybody placed right now and their odds of making the playoffs. And in the division, Toronto's got a 95.2% chance of making the playoffs. Montreal sits second with an 87.4% chance. And then things get a little bit wild. 81.9 is Edmonton, which is a little bit surprising. That's a high number. Winnipeg, where does Winnipeg sit? They sit at 55%, right with Calgary at 55.5. Vancouver, much down, and as Vancouver currently sits at 17.7, and Ottawa virtually out of the playoffs right now, they sit at just a 7.3% chance. Edmonton's number is a little higher than I thought with the goaltending the way it is. Calgary is about where I thought, and Winnipeg's probably a little lower than what I thought. I don't know. This team's got to get things going, and this division just seems to be, I don't know if it's that they're just beating each other up or what seems to be the case, but yeah, got some teams that are disappointing in Vancouver and Calgary right now, and Edmonton really too. Listener poll question, Facebook poll. Yeah, we didn't do a question this week. We did a Facebook poll. Big thanks goes out to my friends at Calgary Flames Fans and Calgary Flames Fan Page, 2 Facebook groups. You got to hop on and join them. talk hockey with all the Flames fans. It's great during the games, after the games. I've been on them pretty much all day today, listening to what people thought about the performance last night. My question I posed today was, how many games would the Flames have won this year without Jacob Markstrom? We've won 9 of 16. Would it be 1 to 2 games, 3 to 4, 5 to 6 games, or 7 to 8 games? Well, I had a lot of people tell me that 0 should have been an option. I disagree with that. Well, let's take a look at where the percentages fall. 165 participants today joined in on the poll. 67% of them, 111 people of 165, said the team would have won between 1 and 2 games this year. This fan base is pissed. This fan base is really pissed. 48 of them, 29%, said 3 to 4. 1%, 2 people said 5 to 6. 2%, 4 people said 7 to 8 wins. I fell in that 3 to 4 category. But having 111 out of 165 people say that this team would have only had 1 to 2 wins thus far this year, man, if that doesn't tell you the frustration levels in Calgary right now, I don't know what will.
Get all your Flames Unfiltered podcasts, team news, team updates, and highlights at flamesunfiltered.com.
Eyes ahead this weekend as we have a home and home back-to-back Friday, Saturday night Battle of Alberta. And why does it seem like every time we get ready for a Battle of Alberta, the game before is a complete disaster, and it makes me sweat and worry because I don't want to lose to the damn Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton comes into this 10-8-0, and Calgary comes in 8-7-1. There, sit 3 points ahead of us in the standings, 2 points or 2 games in hand over the Calgary Flames. Players to watch, obviously, McDavid, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi. More so in this matchup, will we see Mike Smith on night 1? Will we see David Riddick on night 1? I got a feeling those will be the 2 that go. This year, where does the season series sit? They've played just one in Battle of Alberta. It was a Saturday night a couple weeks ago, February 6th. Calgary won that one 6-4, and what was a wild one is not wild with intensity, but wild with goals back and forth. And it was a game that actually lacked some intensity. Will it ratchet up? Will this core group allow Matthew Tkachuk to ratchet it up, or are they supposed to keep him calm? As a side note, many people say this is just what the doctor ordered. We need a Battle of Alberta to right the ship and change our fortunes, much like Vancouver changed their fortunes last week. Well, it can go 2 ways. Calgary jumps out and has a good Friday, Saturday night. Yeah, everybody in this fan base, we miraculously forget things really fast. But we struggle in the Battle of Alberta this weekend. Can you turn the panic, the hate, the angry meter any higher in Calgary? I can't imagine if the frustration level went up. And a sweep to Edmonton would send this fan base into a frenzy. After that, Monday, Calgary heads to Toronto for a 2-game set, which sees the Calgary Flames take on the Maple Leafs Monday night and Wednesday night. This will be the 3rd and 4th meetings of the year between these 2 teams. The first previous 2 happened both in Calgary in late January, the 24th and 26th, where the Maple Leafs came in and beat Calgary in 1-goal games both night, 3-2, 4-3. Will Matthew Tkachuk and Jake Muzzin meet up and discuss what happened after the last game, or will that be put to bed? That will be interesting. Well, HOTMIC game of the week. We got one coming up here real soon. February 25th against Ottawa next Thursday night It is a Hot Mic Game of the Week. And what is a Hot Mic Game of the Week? Well, what it is a watch party hosted by Flames Unfiltered, me. And we will sit back and we'll watch the Flames game together on the Hot Mic app. We'll talk Flames hockey. We'll complain. We'll bitch. We'll cheer. And you know what? We'll talk about this team we love so much. It's great fan interaction. We even have prizes to win. It's fun. It's good talk. Meet some new Flames fans. I've already made some friends on them. Watch for further details. You'll see it on Facebook and Twitter. It's easy to do. You grab your iPad or your phone, download the Hot Mic app, set up a free account. It's easy. It's quick. Search Flames. You'll see the Flames Unfiltered group. Join that group. Check the viewing schedule. You'll see the Flames playing the Senators next Thursday night. Click on that. You'll be in. And you know what? When you get in, you can pick who's going to win you can be part of the hat trick jersey contest. We're giving away a Blasty jersey here at Flames Unfiltered, and it's easy to get in. You got to do 3 things. Connect with Flames Unfiltered on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Join that Hot Mic party. Be involved. And you know what? Pick the first Flames goal scorer of the night, and you get entered into a contest to win a Blasty jersey at the end of the season. We also have Viewer of the Night, where we give away a set of 2021 Upper Decks Calgary Flames game card packs. And that goes to a random participant. We have a lot of fun. We talk Flames hockey. It's all next Thursday night when the Flames take on the Ottawa Senators. Always a good time having the Hot Mic Game of the Week. Well, I'm usually really pumped and excited for the Battle of Alberta. I usually love it. It's usually one of my favorite, matchups. And, you get confident, you get a little cocky, and you get a little bit excited, and you get all ready to roll. I'm not cocky. I'm not excited. I'm a little bit scared. I don't know. Coaching, the effort, it's all got me depressed. I don't know. Maybe we need a Battle of Alberta to jumpstart this team and get us back where we belong, up in a playoff race. We'll see what happens. We can all pray that things go really good this weekend. Thanks to all our listeners. We truly appreciate it. Follow us on social media at Flames Unfiltered. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Inside Edge Hockey News. Rate and review us on Apple Podcast. And you know what? Let's ease our frustrations. Let's get excited for a Battle of Alberta. And you know what? Back when we were not getting any hockey and worried that hockey wasn't going to come back, we'd have killed for a game, win or lose. I guess that's the attitude we have to have now. Thanks again, Flames fans. We'll see you next week.
Get connected. Flames Unfiltered can be found on Twitter at Flame Unfiltered. And also make sure you check out our Facebook page at Flames Unfiltered. Check out host Brad Burud on Twitter at Brad Burud. And if you like what you hear, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. You can find Flames Unfiltered on all the major podcast players. And consider subscribing to Inside Edge Hockey News on Patreon. That'll get you exclusive content and much more. Thanks again and enjoy the hockey action.
Play on! Yeah, baby! Play on! Yeah, baby!
Thanks for tuning in to Flames Unfiltered. Check back for more action-packed Calgary Flames talk. This has been a production of Inside Edge Hockey News Radio, copyrighted and distributed by the Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.